Whenever I've set a goal in the past, I've always had this real issue with focus. I know how important it is to focus on your goal, but I found sometimes that I get completely overwhelmed by thinking about the end position all the time compared to where I am now. So I've come up with a few ways to help direct focus in a way that is productive and helps me make steps towards my goal. So I thought I'd share them with you today. Hi, I'm Julia and I love all things to do with the brain and all things to do with setting goals because I have had many failed attempts of setting goals and not getting them, working through exactly what has gone wrong and using a bit of neuroscience and psychology to try and put some methods together which actually make sense for getting a goal and that actually should work and be helpful. And today my topic of interest is all about focus. I like to think of focus almost like how a sculptor makes a statue out of a block of marble. The sculptor has to have the idea of what the statue is going to look like, when they're faced with this normal block of marble. They have to be able to visualize what they want the end product to be. But when they start chipping away, they aren't always focused on the end complete result. They're focusing on a little bit of the statue at a time. If the sculptor was to step back every minute or so to see, am I at my end goal yet? They would just feel disappointed, dejected. And say, for example, they accidentally knocked a big bit of rock off and it sort of altered the end product. If they were so focused on that end goal, then it could be a real knock to them, their confidence, and the project in general. They might want to heave the whole marble block into the bin. So I've come to the conclusion of setting a big goal, but then finding the steps in between and sort of forgetting the big goal whilst you're working on the little steps, checking in with it every so often. And for me, this has been so helpful in helping me achieve things in my life. It's not been as painful day to day because I'm not constantly going, oh my God, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. It's almost more fulfilling as well in a way because I'm actually enjoying the process of getting the little things done. So let's get to a few of my little steps as to how I like to do this. I like to draw something which I call a plan path. So this starts with a long line and on one end I have where I am now. For example, that could be if my big goal is I want to be a reconstructive plastic surgeon. I mean, I don't think I have the skill to do that, but never mind. If that's my goal, my end goal, where I am now, I could be a student at school in high school. So I'd start my plan path with a student at high school and where I want to end up is as a reconstructive plastic surgeon. Now that is probably a 15-year plan path. That's a very long one. You can do this for obviously much shorter ones if you are, at a certain position in a company now and you want to be CEO. Again, that's probably quite a long path. Or if you're doing a fitness goal, it could be that right now I am able to lift 20 kilos and I want to be able to lift 100, however long you want this timeline to be. For me, I normally do like to keep it to be a couple of years. But for this example, I'll just go whole hog. Let's do big career goal, which is miles off in the future. Now with this plan path, you need to have some pit stops on the way. Now what I like to think of are what are the milestones, skills and experiences that I need to get me from where I am now to where I want to be. Milestones are things you achieve. These are things like getting into medical school, getting onto a certain training program, getting certain accolades, certain awards, certain qualifications. These are the milestones. So under the title of milestones, I just list all of the different things that I need to achieve in between where I am now and where I want to be. If your goal is a little bit more arbitrary in the sense of if it's a weightlifting goal or a running goal and say you're currently running 5K and you want to run a marathon, what you could do for your milestones is have different distances along the way. So you could have run 10K, 15, 20, etc. So break it down like that. Break down whatever that big goal is at the end into milestones that you're going to hit along the way. Now for every milestone, you're going to need certain skills to achieve that milestone. So if I am a student at high school and I am wanting to be a reconstructive plastic surgeon, the first milestone might just be get into medical school. I mean, that is a very hard milestone, but that might be the milestone, I need to get into medical school. I like to think of the skills as ing words, doing words. So things that you can actually improve upon. It's not necessarily like I need to get an A, which maybe you do need to get an A. What is the skill that you can actually do to get the A? That is studying. So it's going to be, some skills are going to be studying, maybe some volunteer work, volunteering, maybe also some practicing of different techniques, interview skills, things like that. So what are the skills that I'm going to need to get me to that next milestone? Now, the further away or the longer this path is in terms of years, you might not necessarily know all of the skills, but that's why I like to have it, and you can come back to it and add things to it. But just think about, for each milestone, what are the skills that you're gonna need to get yourself there. And then once you have those skills do not come from thin air, skills come from experience. So now you've got to think of, okay, for that skill, for a skill of studying, what experience am I gonna need to make that better, to improve at that skill? So the experience might be, I'm gonna join a revision group and I'm gonna go to it every week. I'm gonna do practice questions every 2 days. You can write a list then of different experiences that can help you improve that skill. Volunteering, it might be the case that you can get a placement at a local hospital. So there are experiences for all of these different skills. Now, in every instance, this goes against all the instincts, but for now, temporarily, I want you to forget the end goal. In fact, I want you to forget all of the milestones on that path except for the very first one. This is now my goal. I'm going to focus purely on the next milestone ahead and the skills and experiences that I need to get there. This is when we come back to a little bit of the piece about obstacles and what is potentially standing in your way, because once you now have, okay, this is my new goal, this first milestone, these are the skills I need to build, and these are the experiences I need to do, you can look at those experiences now and think, okay, what is the barriers, or what are the barriers to me doing those experiences? For example, if you are wanting to volunteer at a local hospital, it might be the case that the barrier standing in your way is, I don't know how to get on a list for volunteering at a local hospital. So with these obstacles, come up with a strategy. Don't know how to volunteer in a hospital. It could be, my strategy will be, I will reach out to different hospitals. I'm going to email local schools to see if they've also had any of their students go and volunteer. I'm going to contact some charities that are involved with med students and helping them get placements. There are lots of actions you can take based on that obstacle that's in your way to get the experience. So now with this milestone, what I think is also important to keep you focused and in the zone is to put a bit of a timeline on when you potentially want to achieve this by. Now this has to be flexible, because if you get past the point where you thought you'd achieve it, it then can lead to, oh, well, I didn't achieve it, so what was the point in all that work? So let it be flexible. But what I like to do is every quarter is take my milestone and say, okay, based on this milestone, what would I like to achieve in the next 3 months to do with that milestone? So if it is, the milestone is getting into med school, and then it could be that my quarterly goal is to establish a volunteering position in a hospital and be doing it a few times a week. That could be, okay, after 3 months, that's what I really want to achieve. I then like to break down that quarterly goal into 3 little goals. And this is because then each month you have one thing which you are trying to make progress with to lead you towards that quarterly goal, which will help you towards that milestone. And for me with my thesis, I did this all of the time. I like to have, okay, for my quarterly goal, it would be, I want to finish my literature review. And so I then break down into monthly goals. Okay, my first goal will be, I want to complete section 1 and 2. Second one will be section 3 and 4, section 5 and 6. Something like that, really, really straightforward, but just taking the milestone, picking a goal within that milestone, which is quite close to you, which can be achieved in 3 months, not something which is wildly out of reach, but something that is potentially achievable, and then breaking that down further into sub goals. So then each month you have a small goal to be working on. And then I like to go even further. Can you imagine? I want to break it down even more. So then with my monthly goal, I like to say, okay, if I was working on my lit review and I'm trying to write sections A and B in this month, I will then break down my goal goal into 4, because then it means I have 1 goal per week. So that could be read section A, second thing could be write section A, then it could be read for section B, write for section B. That's then 4 little goals, and it means now each week I have a goal to be working on. Now this is why I like to do this in quarters, because if you did this for every single part of your like milestones, it would be so overwhelming. So I like to take the milestone, think of one thing that I'd want to achieve to show me that I'm making progress towards that in a 3-month window, break that down into 3. So you've got a goal for each month, and then take the first one of that and break that down into 4. Then when you come to the next month, you can see, okay, where am I at with that? Did I get there? Did I not? And then you can adjust. It's not an inflexible thing. It's, okay, I didn't quite finish section B, so I'm going to carry that over. So my goal for the next month is going to be to finish section B and start and write section C. So you can sort of rejig as you go. But I think having that focus allows you to tick things off the list a little bit more and not get so overwhelmed with I have to write 22,000 words or whatever it is. It's focusing week by week, but you know that you're making progress towards that end goal. This is something that I think is also quite useful to check in with the ideal day exercise as well. So I like to do the ideal day exercise. I'd say I repeat it every year. And if there's been a significant change in my life, if I've changed jobs or I've moved or something like that, I like to redo that when I'm doing this quarterly, monthly exercise. So I don't want to change my goals every week. I don't want to change my big goals every month, but you can take time to reflect on the milestones and maybe then annually or even every 6 months check in on the ideal day and think, is this still what I really want? And then you can go back to the plan path that you set out and maybe change things around, change that end destination. I think with focus, we sometimes get so honed in on this is the way it's going to go, this is what I want, this is how it's going to be, that anything that goes away from that exact rigid plan that we have in our heads can feel like a complete failure, and we feel almost like, what was the point in me even thinking about that, investing my time, investing my energy? It was all worth nothing. But I like to think instead of like, okay, what do I enjoy? This is the goal that I think will bring me some of that enjoyment, and I'll just start working on it. And you just never know what's going to happen as you work on it. You might find an element of the work that you really, really love that you didn't anticipate, and then you can change that end goal maybe. It's almost like, instead of thinking it as a single destination, it's like that little radius on your phone when you go on maps and you have like a sphere out from where you are. It's the general direction you're heading in, but it's not the only direction. And I think having that flexibility allows you to pivot and actually enjoy the process a little bit more. So I hope that was helpful if you have a goal, and it helps you give a little bit more structure to your focus and not be so overwhelmed by how far away that end destination is. I like to forget about it a little bit, bring the goals closer to me that I can actually achieve them, and check in with that big goal every so often to think, is this still actually what I want to achieve? And I think this way you'll see real progress and feel more content day to day. That is it from me this week. I'm going to have another video coming out about the small actions that you can do day to day to help you achieve your goals. That'll be coming up soon. If you like videos all about the brain and behavior, then subscribe to the channel because more of them will be coming as well. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.